Welcome to HECTV's live interactive program tonight that's part of St. Louis.
The whole production is pulled together.
It's going to be a steel bridge.
On the American classic novel,
the car that put America on wheels.
Welcome to HECTV Live. Today, we're live with HECTV from Cross Keys Middle School in the Ferguson-Florissant District. It's part of our Inside the Artist Studio series, and today it's Inside the Artist Studio with Brian McNeill. We're very pleased you're able to join us, and we welcome you to the home of the Cougars here at Cross Keys Middle School. We're with Brian McNeill because we're going to learn about Scottish fiddle music, other kinds of Scottish tunes, as he conducts a master class with this great group of students that actually did a public performance along with a whole bunch of other kids in the St. Louis area just last week. Brian's here as part of the Scottish Partnership for Arts and Education program. He'll talk more about that as we get into our show. You're going to have the opportunity to see this artist at work with these students. As always with Inside the Artist Studio, we welcome your questions, your give and take, your ideas and your interests about what's going on with what they're doing. So you can email us your questions to live@hectv.org. That's live@hectv.org. Today, hopefully, you'll learn something you may not know about traditional tunes of Scottish music, about what it means to play cellos and bass, violins, fiddles, and some other unique instruments that Brian's going to share with us as well. Let's meet Brian McNeill now. Brian, thanks so much for being here.
Tim. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you. Well, I guess we should start with just a little bit of background about who you are, Brian, what you got, how you got interested in Scottish traditional music, where you're from, that kind of good stuff.
Okay, I come from a little town in central Scotland called Falkirk, which is right in the middle in between Glasgow and Edinburgh, the two big cities. Very unglamorous place, not the Highlands, not castles, not all the beautiful bits. And I grew up and began to learn my music at the beginning of my high school career. And I didn't have a good time learning fiddle. I had an old gentleman who taught me, who was very impatient, and I used to hit my knuckles over the with a wooden rod, with a big wooden pointer when I made a mistake. So I didn't stay with playing fiddle. I went away instead and I became part of various rock bands. I was a very, very bad lead guitar player, and I was actually a very good bass player. And that lasted until I was about 17. And at the age of 17, I went into an old bar in Falkirk and I saw an old blind guy playing harmonica and playing traditional tunes, jigs and reels. And there was a fiddle hanging on the wall, and I could still remember enough to have a go and try and accompany him. So I did, and I was hooked. And I went away and I just started to soak it all up like a sponge. All through my university career, when I was supposed to be learning how to become an English teacher, I spent most of my time learning to play the fiddle and anything else I could get my hands on that would play traditional music. So I did all that, and then in 1975, with a bunch of friends, we formed a band called the Battlefield Band, which went on to be one of the premier bands in the Scottish traditional music revival. And we went and we started touring in 1975 and in various lineups. I haven't really stopped since. So this is my 40th year on the road, playing and teaching.
And it's playing and teaching because you're also the former head of Scottish music at the Royal Academy of Scottish Music, right?
That's right. There's the Royal Scottish Academy of Music and Drama in Glasgow. I did that for 7 years because I felt very much obliged to, if you like, give something back to the music that had given me my living and the great love of my life, if you like. And I wanted to take it back to the level of a degree program there. And Scotland at that time was the only place in the world which took its traditional music seriously enough to actually make a university degree program to do that.
Well, I want to take a moment to just talk about fiddle versus violin, because you've used that term and people are going to be looking at instruments and they think about that. When we think about American traditional folk music, people think about playing the fiddle as opposed to the violin. Is it the same kind of concept? Is it because of the kind of music you're playing, or is the instrument actually different?
There is no difference. It is a colloquial term for a violin. A fiddle and a violin, there is technically no difference, although you can do all sorts of different things with them. If you were to go 40 miles away from here into the mountains between here and the southern parts of the States, you would find people playing the fiddle not like that. You would find them playing it like that, so they could sing at the same time. And you know, the number of things that you can do with this instrument is huge, and people will keep on developing what you can do with a fiddle. It's a tradition that has never ever been static, and it never will be.
You're here with the Scottish Partnership for Arts and Education.
Sure.
Talk a little bit about that organization. How'd you connect with them, and what's their purpose? Why are you here?
The Scottish Partnership for Arts and Education came out of the old St. Louis Highland Games. And it was a bunch of very dedicated people who believed that the business of Scotland's traditions here in this region of America was very important and that people should learn it. And that people particularly in grade schools and in high schools, should be exposed to it in a way that would let them learn it in a traditional way and would also let them learn it in a way that was fun and would make it accessible. So we have done this for a number of years now. I've come across every year. I love it. It is a fantastic place, fantastic environment in which to play and to teach music, and these are very dedicated people, the SPAE people, SPAE as we call them. They have kept a strand of tradition alive here in a very, very important and very dedicated way, and I take my hat off to them always.
And the students we're going to meet today, the Cross Keys Middle School students, you've actually had the chance to work with them previously. You did some in-service, as it were, some workshops with them, and that led up to a public performance. We had a fantastic concert last Friday night with these guys and with a whole bunch of people from other middle schools and high schools around about the region here. And this is one of my favorite groups. I'm delighted to be working with them again today. Well, then it's probably a good time for us to let you get to working with them again. You may have more questions for Brian about his music and his history. You can email those to us at live@hectv.org. That's live@hectv.org. And as you watch his interaction with the students, think about the questions you want to ask related to the music they're playing and how that's going on. So, Brian, I'll move out of the way for a bit and let you get going.
Tim, thank you very much. Thank you. Well, hi, guys. Oh, come on, let me try that again. Hi. Hi. That's a bit better, okay? Now remember, you're in the one classroom in your school career where when everybody else tells you to be quiet, I will be telling you to be loud, okay? Because I want you to do things loudly and confidently for me. We're going to start off with a little tune here called The Duchess Tree. Now, the Duchess Tree, although there is a composer attributed to it, I think probably had its start in life as, what kind of tune? We talked about this last week. What kind of tune? An air. What else did we think it was for? A lullaby. We thought this was a tune that might have been used to put children to sleep at night. So again, we're going to do this the way that we believe is the right way to learn these tunes. We're going to learn to sing it first, right? So I'm going to give you an A, and then we're all going to sing this tune from the music, although we don't need the music at this stage. So here we go. Yeah. Everybody sing with me. Da 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 da, ya da 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 da, ya da 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 da. Come on, you can make a lot more noise than that. Da 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 da, ya da 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 da, ya da 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 da. Sing that again for me, okay? 1, 2, 3. Ya da da. We'll sing the second bit in a minute. Put that on your instruments first, okay? Everybody, instruments up. Here we go. Everybody ready? 1, 2, 3. Now, why learn by singing first? The answers are very simple. First of all, if you can sing a tune, you can rehearse it anywhere. You won't just be able to rehearse it when you've got an instrument in your hands. For instance, having a double bass and wanting to learn a tune means that your opportunities for rehearsing are quite restricted. If, on the other hand, you can sing it, you can rehearse it anywhere. You can rehearse it in the shower, you can rehearse it in the bus queue, you can rehearse it while you're waiting to pay for the groceries in the supermarket, because you can have it in your head and you can go over it. Right? So that's the first reason. The second reason is, if you learn to sing it, the tune will go in faster. And it will go in faster because you won't be distracted by this thing that gets us all a little crazy, this business of actually having to deal with our technique on our instruments. So you're not dealing with two things at the same time. You're dealing with the tune first, and then after that, you're dealing with what happens in the instruments. So let's play that again. Just that first half, please, right? Now play it out loud, you know. You've been quite timid with it at the moment, right? So play it out loud. We'll get to the business of expression of this tune later, right? 1, 2, 3. Now sing it again, twice as loud, like you mean it. 1, 2, 3. Ya da 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 da. Ya da 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 da. Ya da da da. Ya da da. Ya da da da. Ya da da da. Ya da da da. Is that on your instruments? Okay. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Let's do that again. If I say 1, 2, 3, I want everything up there. 1, 2, 3. Anybody else who's watching, by the way, we divide the music into different parts, and we usually give the parts a letter for a name. And because these guys have worked with me before and they know exactly what we're talking about, when I say let's do the B part, they know where we are. Okay, let's do the whole thing once together, and then let's do a couple of things with it. Let's just see. So here we go. The Duchess Tree. 1, 2, 3. To answer here.
We've got a couple of questions that come in as they play this particular piece of music. The first is, are there words that go with this tune? Is this just a traditional tune that's been passed down, or is this a newer composition?
Well, technically this is written by a man called James Scott Skinner, and who was one of the great fiddle players of the Scottish, the first Scottish revival, around about 1900. But, in fact, I think it may be older than that, and I think he may have taken it and cleaned it up, because I think it probably originally was a lullaby that had some Gaelic words. Gaelic, of course, being the other language of Scotland, the language that was at one point the language of most of Western Europe, and still in use today, and still the language which gives us perhaps our most poetic bits of Scottish culture. So yes, and if there are words, we don't know them. But it seems to me the tune is asking for words, I think, given the fact that it is a lullaby as well. Okay.
Is the bowing process different for fiddle than it would be to playing a violin and a classical piece of music?
Some people would tell you it is. Again, this is a matter of debate. Some people would say it is. I don't think it is. I don't think there's any substitute for straight up good classical technique. And I'm always I ask these guys here how often I have told them to put more bow into things and to actually control bow and make volume the same way that you would make it if you were part of an orchestra. There are other people who would disagree with me. There are as many styles of fiddle teaching as there are fiddle teachers probably in Scotland. But I would say no. I would say that if you have a straight up classical technique, then you're going to get the best approach to Scottish traditional music.
And it's that basic technique that we've just gotten through. We understand exactly what the tune is now. We're going to be adding some elements and embellishments to it.
That's right. Not so much embellishments. We're going to put it through a little bit of arrangement now. Okay.
Very good. I'll let the kids do that. And if you guys end up with questions too, let me know, because I'd like to have questions from the Cross Keys kids if you've got them. Thank you, Brian. Go back to you.
Thank you. So, guys, now one of the things that we did, that we said this tune fitted, was to use the same principle that our national instrument of Scotland, which is bagpipes. Somebody said it, yeah. So to use the same principles that bagpipes used on it, which means that we're going to actually use what we call a drone, because bagpipes, as you know, bagpipes have three big pipes up here, one little pipe down here that does all the tune, and these big pipes at the back give us all a drone that goes on all the time. So everything that the tune on the little pipe plays has to make a harmony with these the one note that comes from the drones. So what we're going to do is the way we did it before. We're going to split it up, and we're going to get, first of all, a drone from our friends on the violins, and our friends on the cellos and basses and violas are going to start us off, yeah? Okay? And then after that, we're going to all play the B part of the tune together, and then we're going to reverse the drone, right? So that we get a different texture. Scottish music, traditional music, is in no way inferior in arrangement to classical music. We just keep the arrangements in our head. This isn't written down. These guys are going to have to remember how to do this. And again, this is one of the things that makes us slightly different from classical music. You know, we have the arrangements in our head. If we decide we don't like the arrangements, because the tunes now belong to us, we have taken charge of them, then we will change the arrangement. That is up to us. It's not written down on this weird stuff called paper, this strange arrangement of lines and spaces and dots. And again, I come to a statistic that I always tell people. 95% of the music on this planet is not learned from paper representations of music. It is learned by one person teaching another person. It is learned from a master to apprentice situation, or in this case, without blowing my own horn too much, a master to a bunch of very good apprentices here. Okay, so we're going to do it. I'm going to give you a 3 count, and then we're going to get the drone from the fiddles, right? Everybody up, ready to play, okay? Okay. 1, 2, 3. Very good. 1, 2, 3. We played that twice through. We are still reading it a little bit from the music. Now remember, one of the things that I have told you all the time, the music is only a guide for us. If I come back here to you next year, and I certainly hope I will, right, I do not want to see all the bows going the same way. I do not want to see everybody playing exactly the same version of the tune. You have been given a little bit of Scotland's tradition, right? It is up to you whether you want to keep it exactly the same way, if you like this tune, or whether you want to change it. If you want to change it, you can. Just don't make it any less beautiful. So there are lots of different ways to change it. You can change it by putting in little grace notes. If you watch me play, I would play. I would put that little triplet in before the first C sharp. Lots of these little grace notes. Grace notes are just a way of going from one note to another note. And they're a very developed thing in Scotland. If you saw bagpipers playing a type of tune called pibroch, they would occasionally, they have between one long note and another long note, they can have as many as 15 or 20 grace notes, right? And they play all these little trills to get from one big note to another big note. So it's one way that you can change things. You can change the bowing. You can also do one of the things that traditional music does all over the place, lots of different traditionals, including American traditional music, and you can double stop this. You know what double stopping is? What's double stopping?
Playing two notes at the same time.
Playing two strings at the same time, right? Okay, so if you double stop this, for instance, in the first phrase it goes... So you can do that. Now, all of these techniques are available to you. Also probably 100 techniques that we haven't even thought of yet. So take the tune, make it your own, and when I come back next year, somebody play me the tune in a different way and I'll be very happy. So we're going to play that once more and then we're going to go on to the next tune. Maybe I'll play you a tune in between just to show you. Okay? Something different. Okay, here we go. Same again. Play it as well for me this time. Okay. Wait for it. Oh, I can't. People who want to play, I love it. Okay, so let's go and let's go to the drone first. Right, 1, 2, 3. Beautiful. 1, 2, 3.
Compliment that we just got for the Cross Keys students, so thank you very much. You're already getting compliments via your television debut. That's nice. And so a couple of other questions came in based on part of what you were just talking about, the traditions of the music. Would there be American fiddle traditional tunes that we would recognize from Scottish precedent, or like Scottish influences have led to us to this song that we might know here?
Sure. There's lots of American tunes that are versions of Scottish and Irish tunes. In fact, if you go to the whole business of old-timey fiddling, the whole business of bluegrass fiddling, you find that, Bill Monroe, the father of bluegrass, one of the first tunes that he wrote was called Scotland. Oh. Right? Because, he recognized the same elements, didn't it? Somebody gave me a wonderful book last night, one of the Spey people, of Ozark fiddle tunes. And there are a lot of tunes, and there's a tune in there called Ginny Nettles, right? Now, it is actually a different tune, but the title, there's a tune in Scotland called Jenny Nettles. Ah. All right, and there are all sorts of things like that, and there's a tune called, in Scotland, there's a bagpipe tune like the next kind of tune that we're going to play, which is called Campbell's Farewell to Redcastle. Now that came over here, and that became the same tune. It became Campbell's Farewell to Red Gap. Oh. Right, okay, so just completely different, but the same tune, different feel. The music, because the music is never divorced from its social circumstances. It was used for a different purpose. It was used to make a different kind of dance. As opposed to being a march kind of tune in Scotland, it came over here and it was a square dance. So it got changed, and because people change titles, not deliberately, people just don't remember titles. Oh, what's that tune called? It's called Campbell's Farewell to Red something. Red something. Well, we're in Red Gap. It's called Campbell's Farewell to Red Gap. So that is the way things happen. And because it's alive, because in one sense, you have this organism. It's not something that has been fixed on a page. you know.
So it's still breathing, it's still living, it can change.
In the time that we've been talking, I'm willing to bet you 2 tunes have been written in Scotland. Right? You know?
Sure.
And that is the most amazing thing to me. It is not in any way static, ever. Okay?
That's the cool thing about music.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now that was a lullaby we just heard.
I think it was originally a lullaby. We would call it now, quite simply, as my friend said, an air. In other words, a tune that its only purpose now is for us to listen to it.
Okay.
Right? Okay? And we're going to go on from that. We're going to go on to a pipe march, which has a few kind of nice elements to it that we can bring together.
Let's go for that then.
Okay. Now this tune is called "The Barren Rocks of Aden," and we had a great time doing this. Right now, let's try and sing it first. Let's try it because we're going to do the A part twice, right? Remember the repeat of the A part, and then the B part, which has kind of got a repeat built in. Because if you look at the third line of the tune compared with the second line of the tune, it's just a more complicated version. So there is a repeat kind of built in. So let us just try and do, and like, be loud again. Remember, be loud. It's great to be loud first thing in the morning. Be loud and sing out the first 2 parts of me. So we go. Da 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 dum da 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 dum da 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 ba dee da 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 ya da da dum da da dum dee da dee da. Sing it now. Ya da da dum da dum da dum da dum da da dee da 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 ya da dum da dum da dum dee dee da da. You got all shy on me, right? Okay, now remember, right? Raise the roof here, right? On a count of 4, we're going to do that again. 1, 2, 3, 4. Ya da 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 ya da 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 again. Ya da 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 da. Okay, let's put that on the violins and the basses and the cellos and the violas. 1, 2, 3. Really good, right? Now do the B part, second part. 1, 2, sing it. 1, 2, 3, 4. Da 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 da. I have no voice left from doing this for nearly 3 weeks, so I'll sing it and play at the same time, okay? 1, 2, 3, 4. Now, even as cool as you guys are, you're still all giving each other that wee look that says that maybe this is something that's not cool for somebody our age to do, to sing these tunes. Now, remember what I said, right? If you can sing it, you can remember it much, much faster and much longer. So let's try and put that on our fiddles now, okay? Here we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Play it twice as loud. 1, 2, 3, 5. Getting ready to be as bold as I am, so I'm going fishing here. Okay. Now, what kind of tune is this? What kind of tune was this originally? A march. What kind of march? It's an army march. For which instrument was it written?
Bagpipes.
The bagpipes, right, okay. And this comes from, remember we said, this comes from the time when the British Army was working in Aden, which is down in the Persian Gulf. And they were doing a very similar job to what you guys in America were doing in Iraq. And most of the people who were there were Scottish or Northern Irish soldiers. And one of the regiments there was called the Argyll and Sutherland Highlanders, and they had a very, very good pipe band, big pipe marching band, lots of pipes, lots of drums. And one of them wrote this tune called the Barren Rocks of Aden. And the guys who were marching behind began to make up words to the tunes, right? And they made up a very silly little kind of nonsense rhyme to it. Do you remember how that went? Yeah? Right, it goes on. Here's to the Barren Rocks with a mix and jocks, don't wash the socks. Here's to the Barren Rocks, to the Barren Rocks, oh Aden. Now do that again, do it slightly louder. Don't worry about being in tune. This is just a tune. Just roll it out. 1, 2, 3, 4. Here's to the Barren Rocks with a mix and jocks, don't wash the socks. Here's to the Barren Rocks, to the Barren Rocks, oh Aden. Great. Now, again, like for the benefit of the people watching us in other places, the mix and jocks were the nicknames given to the Scottish and Irish soldiers. A lot of the Irish guys were called Michael, so they became the mix. And a lot of the Scottish guys were called John, and that's a kind of generic nickname for Scottish people, so they became the jocks. Right, so what we're going to do, and of course what happened is that the soldiers, after the campaign in Aden was over, they took this thing back. Many of them lived in Glasgow, many of them lived in quite rough areas of Glasgow, and you know, their children would go out, particularly the girls, and they would play a game known as hopscotch, which some of the girls here have played, I know. We call it hopscotch. In Scotland we might call it peavers. We call it beds. They call it all sorts of different things. And as they played this game where they jumped around with their feet in the different beds, they would sing that little song. And then in the 1950s, a wonderful man called Hamish Henderson from the School of Scottish Studies at Edinburgh University came and collected all the children's songs. And this was one of the ones that he did collect, because he thought what children sang was important. So what we're going to do is we're going to play this tune twice, the Barren Rocks of Aden, because you're playing it really like you want to march somewhere, and it sounds great, right? And then in the middle of that, we're going to put a little D drone in just to show that we can do that, and to show that we can sing over our instruments. Again, this is something that orchestras would not tell you to do, and I think it's very nice if you break the rules a little bit. Okay, so you're going to break the rules, and you're going to sing a little bit over a D drone, and then we're going to go back into the Barren Rocks of Aden again, and then we're going to work out how we're going to join these two tunes together. Okay, so here we go. I'm going to give you a 4 count. 1, 2, 3, 4. You guys have all been working hard, very hard. So my turn to play you something, just to let you hear something a little bit different.
Brian, before we get into that, we've had a couple of questions
Sure.
pop in, and it'll be a perfect transition. Here stay the Barren rocks where the mix and jocks don't wash their socks?
That's right.
Okay, I want to make sure I got the lyrics correctly. Cool, that's very neat. And it was just like a made-up tune that they just, they had the music, the tune already.
The pipe band would be playing the tune at the head of the column. These guys were marching behind. They had a 40-pound pack. They had a rifle. They were wearing kilts. They were tired. They were weary. And as soldiers very often do, they just made up something to keep themselves going. And you know, like probably one guy made it up, and the rest of them just joined in. You know, and if there may even be more words to it. I don't know.
Now, one of the things I noticed about that tune especially, and you playing and seeing your body and your physicality with it, and the kids, of course, being tied to the chair, this seems to me like it's kind of stand-up music as opposed to sit-down music. Is the whole, I mean, is part of the process the fact that we'd have a group and we'd be, you know?
Yeah, well, to a certain extent, most of what we're going to play today is, in one way or another, dance music. Right, and although that is technically a march tune, that is also a tune that's used for various dances in Scotland. And it's again, it's one of these tunes, one of these multi-purpose tunes that has now it's a dance. It's a tune that pipe bands would still play when there are parades, all of that sort of stuff. These tunes, they go kind of deep, like a big chigger, deep into the consciousness, you know, and they stay there, and they come out when people need them for a purpose, you know. And I just think that's the most important thing about the whole thing. They are not music that you bring out when you need to make a statement about art. They are music that will go deep into your life, and when you need it to do something, when you need something to give you a rhythm to change a tire, when you need something to give you a rhythm to march somewhere, then somewhere a tune like that will come out for you.
We've had some questions about the historical information you've been given. Is that like oral traditions that are passed down? Is there research that's been done to help us with that?
There may well be research, but I know it as oral tradition, and it's that simple. You know, like, certainly the Barren Rocks of Aden, there is no reason that tune would have been written before the Aden campaign. And certainly, I mean, I remember when I was a student in Glasgow, seeing the little girls outside my apartment singing that song as they were playing on the street, you know, and I'm pretty sure it was Hamish Henderson who collected it. But I wouldn't worry too much about the research, but I'm much more concerned that people enjoy the fact of it. You know?
Very cool. Well, we're going to enjoy some more music with a new instrument. We're live at Cross Keys Middle School. It's live at hectv.org for your email questions. Brian, I'll let you go to the next instrument.
Now, my friends here already know what this is. What was this called? Ooh. Concertina, yeah. And this is an instrument, this was made in 1923 for the Salvation Army. And when the Salvation Army conducted services on church corners, on street corners, and they couldn't take an organ with them, they wanted to use this instrument like this because several of them together could make a sound like an organ, and it could keep people very well in tune when they were singing. And there are all sorts of different versions of this instrument. This instrument is known as a Wheatstone 64-key English concertina. And originally it wasn't really used in the kind of music that I'm talking about today. It has only really been used in that since the 60s, because lots of these instruments found their way into people's attics, and because they were no longer fashionable after the Second World War. And then people who played my kind of dance music decided to use them, because the great virtue of them, of course, they're fixed reeds, you don't have to tune them, and they make a lovely, a nice loud noise that can really drown everybody else out, you know? You can make it like that, and it can be as loud as a whole bunch of string players. And of course, this was one of the instruments which came on the way to the accordion. Okay? So I'm going to play a little tune. This is a tune I wrote, it's called The Heron. I've noticed, we were up on the Mississippi on Sunday, and we saw lots of herons up there. Very beautiful bird that catches fish. And there's a big story that goes along with this. I don't have time to tell you all, but the story of the heron is basically to do with me having a lot of time on my hands early one morning in January when my van broke down. And I saw a heron, and I had this instrument with me, and I wrote the tune. Yeah. Thank you. Again, remember what I told you last week. 1923, this would have cost you $1. Okay? Which was still a lot of money then. It was a working man's wages probably for several weeks. Right? There were a lot of these in America, particularly in the East Coast, used to play the kind of music called ragtime music. Now this is worth many, many, many thousands of dollars because people collect them now as antiques and they don't play them, and it's a great shame because guys, young people who want to play them can't afford the really good instruments. Same things happened with a lot of different kinds of musical instruments. But anyway, we had a lot of fun last week with people trying this, and if anybody wants to try it again at the end of the session, you're very welcome. Okay. Okay. Let us get to the third of the tunes that we're going to do today. Now remember, we have two titles for this third tune, and this is called a Strathspey. Now, the first title is in the language that we talked about earlier on, the second language of Scotland, which is? Gaelic, right, okay. And as I said, it's a very poetic language, and it's a language that has a lot of meaning in song and in poetry, particularly. And this tune, when it's translated into English, means in Isla, and it's the type of tune which is called a Strathspey. Now, can anybody remember what the word strath meant in Gaelic? What the English translation of that was? No. Anybody remember? A strath is a river valley, and this style of tune came from the valley of the River Spey. The River Spey is a very, very, very beautiful river which goes from the Central Highlands out towards the North Sea, and it comes out pretty near the town of Aberdeen, and it's very, very beautiful. When people think of Scottish scenery and they think of how beautiful Scotland is, that's the valley they're thinking of, right? So there was this peculiar style of violin playing, fiddle playing, which grew up in the Spey Valley, and it was called Strathspey playing. And it became the single most distinctive thing about Scottish playing. Now, if you look on the music, at the end of every phrase, we have this, we've got this rhythmic thing which goes, the main rhythm of it is dum ta dum ta dum ta dum ta dum ta dum ta. And then suddenly, in one bar, it will change from the long note, and the short note will change around, and it will go dum ta dum ta dum ta ta da. Right? And it will be that way around. And that is the distinctive thing about Strathspey playing. And it is one of the few kinds of Scottish music that we know is completely started on the fiddle. The fiddle was quite a late arrival in Scotland, as it was in many places in Europe, because fiddles were an expensive item. And a lot of the time, what people did actually at that time was they didn't play for dancing, they actually sang for dancing. And there is a whole art form still in Gaelic, which is known as portabil, which means mouth music, right? And in English it's called sometimes it's called diddling. And just to give you an example, I don't do it very well at all, but right, now if you try tapping your feet to that, right? Now, there's a whole bunch of bits of that melody. Some of it went to Ireland. It became a song called Love Will You Marry Me. It became a Strathspey here in Scotland, which became Bonnie Lass Come Out of the Barren. It was a different thing again, and it translated into different rhythms. But you can imagine if you got maybe 5 or 6 people singing that in somebody's kitchen, that would be enough to dance to, you know? And if a fiddle costs the equivalent of 2 months' wages, right, maybe it was all that you had to dance to. And the impulse to dance, for some reason, is always a strong one. And it had a special function in Scottish society. Dancing was the way in which boys and girls met each other. And in a society where that was quite strictly controlled, probably much more strictly controlled than it is now. And that was the way, social dancing was the way that boys and girls could actually meet each other and perhaps even when they were older, think about getting married to each other, because they would meet each other, first of all, very often at a dance. So, the Strathspey rhythm, right? Again, I'm going to play you this tune once, and then we're going to play it together, okay? It goes like this. I'm not going to sing it because I'm not far away from losing my voice, but you know the principle now. Right, so here we go. ready? 1, 2, 3, 4. Something very interesting has happened here. I don't know if the rest of you guys noticed it, but my friends on the basses took my invitation entirely to heart, and they have made the tune their own because they played that. How did you play it this time that was different? You plucked instead of bowing it. Now that's been your choice. And again, there is probably no real tradition of playing bass in this kind of music in Scotland, so you have decided something. And that's a great thing. So you keep right on doing that. And if you decide it's better to pluck, or even better decide to pluck a different pattern, then do that. Please, that's wonderful. Now let's do that again. I thought that sounded really good, and I think you should give these guys a round of applause, because I just thought that sounded great. Eh? So this is, hey, you're basic. Very good. Right, let's do that again, okay? And this time, you know, I know you can play this, right? I want to hear you really play it out. This is a big, bold tune, right? Okay. 1, 2, 3. We come to the point of how do we join these tunes together, okay? Now, we know that the big problem we have here and the way this set is set out, this is not a normal set of Scottish music. In a normal set of Scottish music, you would probably have one slow tune and then a whole bunch of faster tunes which were the same rhythm, right? But as the fiddle tradition became more complicated, they wanted to show that they could play different rhythms, and then they would do this kind of thing. They would do an air Strathspey and then a reel, or a march Strathspey and a reel, or a march and a Strathspey and a couple of jigs. They would do all these sort of different combinations. So the way we're going to do this, we're going to play all the tunes together, and then what we're going to do is we're going to play each one twice through. The first one, we know the arrangement we have. The Barren Rocks of Aden, we know the arrangement we have of that. I'm going to give you a 1, 2, 3 count to get us into the Barren Rocks of Aden, and then, because you guys are getting quite expert in this now, I want you just to go into the last tune, because even though it's not the same rhythm, it's somehow complementary, and you didn't seem to have a problem doing that before. You're beginning to get a feel for it. And again, like everybody who's watching us on the television, please understand that having a feel for the music is one of the most important things that you can take away from any of this, right? You have to be able to feel the fact that a rhythm is important. You have to be able to feel the emotion behind the tunes. You have to be able to feel, if you like, where the push should come to push into the tunes and where you should back off, right? So twice through everything, right? Now here we go, right? Everybody concentrate. Played it beautifully so far, right? Okay, so we're going to get the A drone and then we're going to take it from there. Everybody ready, my nice A drone? 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. workout, isn't it? It is a workout, isn't it? Yeah? You're working very hard for me here. Okay.
A very good workout, for
I
sure.
would think so, yeah.
Thank you very much. That was spectacular. We've got about 4 minutes left. And so I don't know if we have time to go through the tune again based upon that time frame. So,
I don't think so, really.
But that was phenomenal to see it all come together. We had one question that came in dealing with structures. You know, when you think about like sonatas, waltzes, those kinds of tunes, they have certain structures. Is that true also of the traditional music? Like there would also always be something that goes into it to make it sound that way?
No, we'd have to say these are separate little discrete D-I-S-C-R-E-T-E pieces, right? And what we do when we play as an ensemble, or even when we play as soloists, we make our own structures, if you like, on the fly as we go. And to a certain extent, that fluidity is what gives a lot of what we do our power. Because you will hear Scottish music played, and you will know, I mean, even now, if I was to play the first tune that these guys were playing, I would play it totally differently now than I would have played it an hour ago, right? And again, if you take that principle of fluidity, even inside a tune, and then apply it to a whole set of tunes, I mean, it just changes every time you do it. Now, we've rehearsed one set, and that's fine. But if you were to take this to players in the schools in Scotland who know the tradition very intimately and who have had much longer at it than my friends here, then you would find that they would make up the sets as they go along. I'll play them, just to give them an idea, I'll play them one of the really kind of complicated reels, a little bit of one, okay? And just to let you hear what it can sound like. This is called the Mason's Apron. My friends on the basses, right? You just give me, you're plucking that really well, right? So pluck an A for me. Dum, dum, dum. You got to clock in the same rhythm as me though, right? You got to be right on the, stamp your feet. Everybody, stamp your feet, give them a rhythm.
Thank everybody, of course, in the Cross Keys community for letting us be here today. Thanks to these fantastic students, their orchestra teacher, and the administration. You'll be joining us in November from Opera Theatre St. Louis and the Two Hill at UM St. Louis for our shows about the production of Brundabar that Opera Theatre St. Louis is doing. We welcome your involvement in those programs as well. Thank you, Brian McNeill, for being here today. Learn more about Brian McNeill at brianmcneill.co.uk. Go to that website and find out all about him. Thanks to everybody here at Cross Keys. Bye, everybody. We look forward to seeing you on the next HEC TV Live.